Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike, the premier business radio program in the area. I'm your host, Mike King. Appreciate you being here with me. The views expressed here are mine. I have no connection to, support of, agreement with any other host, information or ads on the station. I don't work for the station. Our program just airs here on a daily basis, and I'm grateful. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to the best business radio program in the area as we uplift the community and showcase RVA in a different way. You can follow me on social platforms, hashtag Mike King Biz, hashtag On the Mic with Mike. On the Mic with Mike, we highlight partnerships, people, social enterprise, as well as showcasing RVA in a different way. The sounds you're listening to today are coming to you from the Common House, which is 303 West Broad, which is the premier social enterprise co-working space in the area. We'd like to thank the show sponsors, Tom Childry, the credit card guy. If you have credit card merchant issues, Tom Childry's the man. He can help you with processing, as well as Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers. If you have things around the household that you need removed, Andy Taylor can help you. Everything from a bike to an entire house. If you have people who need to be removed, change the internet password, stop giving gas money, stop cooking, and maybe they might go elsewhere. Not sure, but don't call Andy Taylor for that. Andy Taylor with Junk Luggers, he will go ahead and help you out there, as well as Chef Michelle Wilson, Mama Michelle's Cafe, which is the best soul food cafe Southside. Make sure you go ahead and check her out. We'd like to thank her and those guys for being sponsors of the program, which keeps us on the air, which allows us to bring the game changers to you. Today, we're coming to you. Now, in this business, this is called a get. When you get somebody special and with a different story, I bring to you Erica Porter. Erica, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Wow, that was quite the introduction.
Well, you're quite the person there. Alrighty, so I meet you. Shout out to our friend Chris Coop.
Chris
physical
Coop.
fitness extraordinaire, the Herbalife lady. So make sure you guys go ahead and check out Chris Coop. And in walks Erica Porter, and you are boundless energy. You are.
Well, I like to think so.
You are.
I am Red Bull uncanned.
On a regular.
Every day.
Were you always like that, or did you become that? Because I think that could drive parents and people a little bit if you're a bit much as a child.
No, I think that they learned how to channel my energy. There's a difference. I always had that boundless energy. The difference was I didn't gain confidence with that boundless energy until I was a young woman, after I'd taken a group fitness class.
Okay.
Which is really what changed my life.
So that changed your life. All right, let's hear the Erica Porter story. And then there's going to be some defining moments there that really changed you. And there's some highs, some lows, some interesting parts in how you battle back. So let's go through it, because we have time now. Before we were just on the
yeah. And you had to stay very focused with your time. So, and I appreciate the fact that you allowed everyone to speak. So,
but like I said,
so well,
it was my show, so I got to bring you back because you're interesting. You're interesting. Yeah, and you're different.
You might call it that. The Erica Porter story. Wow. It's it's not really that complicated. I was a gymnast.
Okay.
I ended up getting hurt. This is where that boundless energy, I was driving my parents crazy, and they're like, Erica, you need to do something.
So gymnastics was it?
Gymnastics was it until I got hurt. Now, this was young. I mean, I had ambition of being an Olympic athlete. And that is something, and people always talk about, oh God, I feel so sorry for those kids. And I'm like, listen, it is in those kids. I mean, I gave up everything to train as an athlete in hopes of being an Olympian. That didn't come to fruition. And there was time now that needed to be occupied because I was driving my parents crazy. I was bouncing all over the place. And so they put me into dance. And in dance, I found self-expression and passion and the ability to move myself and to connect movement and self-expression, which for me was incredibly important.
Okay.
But it did not come with confidence. I was not built like your typical dancer. I'd always been a little bit more muscular because I'd been a gymnast. So I ended up going to a performing arts school. I came from being a big fish in a little pond to going to a performing arts school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, called Point Park University, in which I had a moment the first day I was at school, where all of the new students went before the panel of all of the instructors that were there and all of the other students. And we were asked to put together a piece of dance that would be self-expressive and would be relatable to the audience that we had. So I left my soul on that dance floor. And I thought that I had put together something that was very much who I was and would speak to the audience. So when I finished this piece and I, in that moment, I felt proud. The head of that school made one comment and one comment only. Nothing about my talent or the lack thereof. He said to me, "You're too fat to be a dancer."
Okay.
So this is in front of the entire student body, in front of the entire faculty. And at this moment, I mean, it's humiliating, it's devastating, but that was the first pivotal moment in my life that set me on a completely different trajectory.
So after that comment, it became a different Erica Porter.
It became a
It
different.
started the process.
It did. Now, that Erica Porter lacked confidence. That Erica Porter lacked true direction. Now, the dance program was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was disciplined. It was a process. It allowed me to understand myself on a whole different level, still lacking the confidence.
Okay.
But it entered me into it. It put me on the path of fitness, which at that moment, I wanted to understand what could the body do? What were the implications of fitness on the body, movement on the body? And I wanted to understand and learn. And in that moment, that's when I became a certified personal trainer.
Okay, so you're going along, you're a personal trainer. How do you get to the wrestling world?
Well, that's so I moved to LA.
Why'd you move to LA?
I moved to LA because I'd gone there for spring break. I loved the vibe. I loved the energy.
It changed me as a person. Going to California.
It did change me as a person. I just, you know what, a lot of it I saw, and at the beach, I would see, individuals who were in their 70s and 80s riding on the Strand. And I saw people energized, and I saw people, what I thought, really enjoying life. And I wanted to enjoy life because I had this zest for life, but I hadn't figured out really who I was as a person. I really hadn't figured out everything about what my future would be and what it would become.
When I went to California, I saw life at a different level and speed. Being from the Northeast, it was what you had. You had to be the best. It was competitive. It was all those things. And then I go to California and it's holistic medicine. And this is 1980. I'd never seen anything like that. It was a different lifestyle. When I came back 2 years later, my mother's looking at me, wondered what happened. Because I had seen something different that changed the course of who I was. The whole idea of social enterprise was there. You didn't have to be your stuff.
Yeah.
You didn't have to be your stuff. Okay, so you go to California, the vibe is there. How do you go and start in that world?
So the vibe is there. Now I still had ambition of working as a dancer, but the body type was not just limited to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I realized that was not going to be my path. So I was working with clients, and I realized in working with clients that most of the work with the clients one-on-one was not the actual physical part, but so much of it was the connections that I was making with those individuals on an emotional level and on an intellectual level. But it wasn't until I had a friend that was like, "Hey, Erica, you need to come and take this class. This class is amazing." And I was not into group fitness. Like I was into, at that time, the impact that my body had, how I worked it, and how it responded aesthetically. Like to me, that was the connection. It was the work that you do, cause and effect, right? And the cause and effect was purely just, how do I look after doing this?
There's a lot of people that I see who are workout people, and they look like workout people. You look like a bodybuilder.
I'm not a bodybuilder at all.
But you have that look.
Maybe.
There are a lot of people who work out and they're slim or whatever. It's just like certain people you look like I've gained weight over the time, but I always was a person who could put on muscle.
Yeah.
And there's men or women who can put on muscle.
Oh, it's definitely a different body type. And I definitely, my body naturally just wants to put on muscle. But that was, so for me, and my body has changed after having a kid, my body changed after that. But that moment where I went into that class, that was the biggest pivotal moment for me, because in that moment, that's when I went in, and even though there was every body shape, there was probably every age, every ethnicity, it didn't matter. There was everything in there. But I was a little intimidated going in. I'd never taken a group fitness class. This was like an ex-Navy SEAL that came in and was barking orders. And I was like, it was a little overwhelming. But it was the first time as a young adult woman that I didn't think about what my body looked like. I didn't think about what I needed to cook. I didn't think about what I needed to do next week, next month. I was in the moment.
Endorphism.
In the moment, I didn't know what it was called. So in that moment, I laid on the floor when I was done. It was the first time that I had this out of body experience, but yet I was completely present in the moment. And I laid on that floor and I looked at everybody else and I was like, man, we just did that. I just did that. And I went home and I was like, whatever that was, I want to experience it every day for the rest of my life. And not only that, I want to empower people to feel that every day for the rest of their lives. So I had no idea how to articulate, like, and other than just spewing, like, this is how I felt, blah, 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 blah. I had not a word to express that feeling. And it was a feeling. It had nothing to do about what I looked like. It was a feeling. So I sat there. 2 weeks later, I'm in the car and we're headed out to, by the way, same individual that I'm still with today. I said to him.
So where'd you guys, okay, well, you just can't drop that because I met him before. What's his name?
Carlo.
Okay, Carlo. So where did you meet him at?
I met him in California. He's a New Yorker. I met him in California. And, East Coasters kind of gravitate towards one another, especially Northeastern. It's totally different, especially in California.
Because it's a different vibe.
It is a different vibe. And we just connected. So my boyfriend, I tell him, I'm like, man, I'm just, and he's listening to everything I'm saying. So we're on our way. We're going to Big Bear to go. He's going to teach me. I love it. Teach me how to snowboard. And I'm like, dude, an endorphism. He says, excuse me? I said, an endorphism. That day in that class, that's what I experienced. And he goes, that's brilliant. Google it. So I Google it. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. So I understand the feeling, but Google's never heard of it. So he goes, that's brilliant. How do we define it? I'm like, I just gave you a whole bunch of words. How do we define it? So in that time of going from LA or Redondo Beach, California to Big Bear Mountain, we defined it.
Okay.
We copyrighted it. We trademarked it. This was back in 1999, 2000. It is the point during physical exertion that you feel anything and all things are possible.
You let everything else go.
You let everything else go.
Okay. All righty. So the wrestling thing became part of the world.
Oh, yeah.
And all right, so who are you when you were wrestling?
Who was I?
Yes.
Like which person was I? The before endorphism or after endorphism? Or what wrestler was I?
What wrestler, and where did that wrestler come from?
All right. So that wrestler is very interesting. So at the time, I had friends that I had gone to college with that were now wrestling for the WWE. And they're like, Erica, these were guys that were Pit Panther, football players. And I would wrestle around with them. And they, one of the guys is like, this is right up your alley. Like, this is your jam. And I said, the women on that show are either just side pieces, they're there to look a certain way, or they're somebody's manager. I am the show, baby. I am not somebody's side piece. So either I am the show or I'm not interested. And literally 6 months later, I had friends saying, hey, Erica, there's this advertisement looking for athletic women for a superhero show. And I'm like, not interested, not interested. By the third person telling me this, and I was like, this is clearly a sign. I need to go and check it out. So in Marina Del Rey, California, at a hotel right there on the water at the wherever it was in Marina Del Rey, I walk up, and you have to walk up this set of stairs, and I go for this casting call. And I walk up, and it's a bunch of like Pam Anderson lookalikes. And of course, that's what I zeroed in on, because that was not
it
me.
then.
And I'm like, oh man, this is not for me. This is, I don't even know what it is, right? Some superhero show, and it's all Pam Anderson lookalikes, Baywatch girls. And I'm like, and so I proceed to leave. And there's this guy that's just, running after me. And he's like, hey, where are you going? I said, yeah, I don't think this is for me. And he goes, no, you need to stay. So I said, who are you? And he proceeded to tell me he was one of the producers and that he really felt I should stay. I did. So we get basically herded in like cattle into the hotel, into the conference room, and we watch this video. So David McLane, who I did not know who he was, one of the founders of Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. So I go in there, and he's talking about this, newfound advanced version of Glow called Wow, Women of Wrestling. And he puts on this whole kind of sizzle reel of what it's going to be. And so I'm watching this thing, and I'm like, oh shit, everything's coming together. Like everything that, all of my athletic kind of accomplishments and what I feel I'm supposed to be doing, and I like to be the center of attention. I like to be, the work that I do, I don't shy away from being, in the spotlight,
Yes.
being it. And I said I wanted to be the show, not
You wanted to be
just
big
the
dog.
side. I did. So we go in there, and I watch the whole thing, and then we have the actual audition part, which I'd never auditioned for any kind of program before. And I'm in there, and they tell me, all right, so if you were a superhero, who would you be? And I'm like, I never thought about this before. I would probably kind of be my own superhero, but they've never heard of it. So I said, I would be Catwoman. So they go, okay, so if you were Catwoman, how would you call your opponent? So I remember that moment vividly. And I just, I crouched kind of down, and I, moved my finger. I'm like, here, kitty, 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 kitty. And I felt ridiculous. And I was like, there's no way these people are going to call me and ask me to do this show. And I forgot about it. And about 2 months later, I get a call from David McLane saying, we'd like you to be a part of our show, our production. And I was like, what? I was like, all right. He goes, you can keep working wherever you're working, keep doing whatever you're doing. We just want you to be a part of this. And I was like, this is so cool. And I didn't even know how cool it was yet. So then I tell Carlo, so this is probably 2 years into us dating. And I was like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. To which he responded, that's the stupidest effing thing I've ever heard. I'm not going to date a wrestler. So I said, well, it's been great knowing you.
You're going to be a wrestler.
I'm going to be a wrestler. If you're not part of it, sorry. Obviously, he's still a part of
yes,
it.
Yes, he ended up dating and marrying a wrestler. Exactly. He drank the Kool-Aid. Yes, he did.
He did. So they did not give anybody, they had ideas of character names that they wanted and roles that they wanted filled, but they kind of just let us go. So we were going through our training, and I just naturally gravitated towards climbing up the turnbuckles and
Superfly Snuka.
Exactly.
Jimmy Snuka.
And probably because I loved him growing up.
Yeah. Who didn't?
I really loved him growing up. So maybe I don't know, maybe if it was I think it was really who I was. I don't know that it was any outside influence, but it really was who I was. So 2 weeks into the training, and I was on the top turnbuckle, and David McLane comes in. He goes, do you think that you could fly over? And it was probably about 200 feet. He goes, would you be willing to fly like through the air into the crowd? And I was like, yeah, I would. No, I was 24 years old or 25 or 20, something like that. Young, my young 20s, mid 20s. And I was like, yeah, well, I mean, when I tell you I came alive in that space, so I had now the understanding and the power of the endorphism.
Gotcha.
I had now the understanding and power of who I was as a woman. My, you know, I wasn't afraid to be who I was and to go after what I wanted. And man, it was liberating and exciting and it was awesome. And it's there is no feeling like the ability to be to self-express in that and be larger than life.
On the mic with Mike, Erica Porter, aka
Jungle Girl.
Jungle Girl. Okay, on the mic with Mike, the best business radio program around. We're going to have to talk to you some more, and because the story is that this Erica Porter is just bigger than one segment right here, because we have that story. We have a diagnosis of cancer, surviving and overcoming that, endorphism, the business,
Yeah.
becoming the mom during the pandemic. You're still momming right now. We got to get all those, but we got to go, folks. We're going to bring Erica back again to finish this. But as I say, time is running. On the mic with Mike, Erica Porter. We'll talk to you soon.